welcome in, fellas. It's always nice to see your beautiful smiling faces looking at me in the live stream. So welcome in and great to have you.
Of course. Thank you, Matthew.
Always, always. Mark, how are you?
I'm
Oh,
doing great.
there we go. So last time we met, what was it? 5, 6 weeks ago. I think we discussed some more merger stuff before it was official and talked a little bit about the details of that. We've had a lot of action happening since, but as you guys know, that action is kind of we got some good and bad stuff going. So we're definitely going to talk about a few things today. Just have some discussion and see where it lies. Greg, I recently saw some of your stuff on the Marcast, so good job on that appearance as well.
Thank
A
you.
lot of good information in that episode, so good stuff.
Appreciate it.
How you guys feeling about the UFL so far? I mean, honest thoughts before we get fired up into this.
Well, I miss the XFL, but it's still there. And of course, the USFL is going to provide a great counterpoint to the XFL and both of them together. And I think it's positive about what's going to happen. I'm interested to see how many tickets are being sold, and I think they need to get some fans in the stands. Keep in mind both of those leagues haven't been able to do that yet. So I think that's the big deal right now, to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm positive on the fact that I think the football will be good. I'm positive on the fact that I think the broadcast will be good. It'll be a good television product.
Mhm.
The business aspect of it is, I think, what Mark was kind of alluding to there, and it's where I have the biggest question marks. I know we're going to talk about the Michigan Panthers, individual tickets not yet being on sale. That's a concern. General ticket sales, we don't really know how those are going. We've got some positive signs in terms of DC, in terms of St. Louis, based on what they're opening up and based on what we've heard through the grapevine a little bit. But it's a lot of the other markets, Houston, Arlington, Memphis, that it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in this first season of the UFL. Marketing, I think I have the same concerns I did about the XFL in terms of marketing, in terms of outreach. Are they doing enough to really grab the casual fan? There's a lot of commercials that are on TV, and that's a good thing. But there were a lot of commercials for the USFL too in 2023, and that didn't lead to really bigger ratings. So, they're kind of repeating something they did last year that wasn't all that effective. So is it just the fact that it's a late start and they're just trying to put a product on the field, and then year two is where they're going to put all their eggs in the basket, which is, of course, what we thought about the XFL too. And obviously that was not the case. But, my concerns are more business related. My concerns are not the quality of players, the quality of play, the quality of the broadcast when we get to it, the availability of the games. Really good broadcast slate from Fox and ABC and ESPN. So really positive about that. But as always, it's always the bugaboo with these secondary leagues. It's the business plan. And that's my main concern. And that's ultimately going to decide the longevity of this league.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. You know what? And the business plan, I mean, it's got their long-term plan is to monetize, and so they can maybe sell some franchises or sell franchising fees to new franchises. That's their business plan. And I think, obviously they didn't get into this to lose money. They get in to make money. So they have to invest to make money. I believe that's what it's all about. And that's why The Rock's there. And that's why Danny Garcia is there, who two people you don't see as much of this year, which is interesting, but maybe that's good. But will they make that? Will they get that opportunity? I was thinking about the markets that they're not in. And for example, they're in St. Louis, and St. Louis does well. Well, why does St. Louis do well? Well, guess what? Because they lost their NFL team, and so when will the UFL go to other markets like that are dying for football? Because it seemed to work in St. Louis. I'm sure they're thinking about it. So maybe this year, as you said, Greg, maybe this year is a building year, and it, and they're planning on doing it all next year. But I don't know why they're not doing it now.
Mysteries of spring football. That's what I put it towards. I'm gonna chime in with some fans commenting. Lemon Cut said UFL hype all the way. Let's go. Defending football show. Season is so close I can taste it. XFLMikeG says hi guys. Checking in. What's up, Mike G?
Hey there.
Michael Lathrop. What's up, Michael Lathrop? How are you doing, man?
Yeah, me, Michael. I if there's one thing I need to know this season, and I need to know this, email me, send me a message if you know the answer. When you're sitting in a football stadium in Washington, D.C., where do you get all the lemons from?
You sneak them in.
Is there a lemon tree outside the stadium? Like, let me know.
You become a pro smuggler at that point. I mean,
guess.
RC said hi from Smoking Guns. What's up, RC? How you doing? RC was on the show a long time ago, last year. So nice to see you watching, RC. I see your work down there. Okay, let's get to some comments. Michael Lathrop said, I'm shocked that Birmingham is limiting seating / tickets to only one side of the stadium. If they don't draw well, it would be hard to believe the other USFL teams will be able to do so. I think that's for the camera angle 100% on my opinion.
Yeah, I think that the larger point there is that they haven't sold enough to open up the other side yet. I think that's where the concern comes in, and I think it's a valid concern. If you look at the USFL market, specifically Memphis, Michigan, and Birmingham, Houston to a little bit of a lesser extent, you would imagine that Birmingham, based on the way the media has covered it in Birmingham, based on the fact that the USFL has kind of been based in Birmingham for the first 2 years of its existence, and the fact that they've got back-to-back championships from the USFL, you would think that the Birmingham market would carry the day for the USFL side of the ledger. And if we're looking at that as a sign that they're not selling the level of tickets that we would hope, then that probably doesn't speak well to the other USFL markets and how they're doing either. Obviously, again, Michigan is a whole other animal with the way things are going there. But this I would say it's a little bit of a concern. We'll see once we get closer to game time and maybe the media coverage ramps up locally in terms of putting the Stallions on the map and doing more with Skip Holtz and doing more with players in the market. We'll see if those ticket sales tick up in the coming weeks.
And the question to me really is, are we going to see the same kind of participation we saw in the past couple of years of the USFL with the Birmingham Stallions, or is it going to be, new fans coming in to watch? Very curious there. I mean, personally, I don't feel like they're going to attract a lot of new fans with the current engagements. I mean, what do you guys think?
New fans? Yeah, I wonder about that. So what does the UFL have going for it? Well, they've got the rivalry between USFL and the XFL. So I think the league is counting on some of that, but I'm not sure how much that's going to pay off on getting people in the seats. The player level is higher. The level of talent is higher now because it's distilled from 2 leagues to 1. And hearing from Vontae Diggs, who is in the Memphis training camp, he said that's clear to him, that's exactly what's going on here, that there's much greater talent in those 8 teams. He says there's talent. There's probably enough talent out there for 14 teams or 12 or 14 teams. That was his estimate. So if you like the estimate of a linebacker, there you go. But he knows. He's in the trenches. So will that sell more tickets? I don't think so. So how do they sell more tickets? Maybe Greg has an idea.
Well, I guess my thinking is if you live in Birmingham and you did not go to any of the Stallions games in 22 and 23, what has been done there to make you want to go in 2024? That's the big question. And to me, I'm not in Birmingham, so I don't know, but I haven't seen anything that would, if I was someone in Birmingham, again, who didn't go in 2022, didn't go in 2023, I don't feel like they've done enough to attract a newer audience or a broader audience to this. They've made it a point in a lot of the media to say exactly what Mark said, that the talent level is higher, but is that really going to bring out a significant number of fans who didn't attend in the last 2 years? I doubt that. I agree with Mark on that. So I think the only thing that's really going to bring fans out, and I said this before, but it's longevity. It's coming back year after year. It's planting your flag in that city so that fans know that this is not a fly-by-night operation. This is not, we'll play 2 years and then we'll leave, or we'll play 3 years and then we'll leave, or whatever the case may be. This is a long-term play. And so the hope is, just by showing up year after year, you will settle into the consciousness of the fans in that city, and they'll be more apt to spend money. They'll be more apt to give themselves over to spring football, knowing that they're not going to get, knowing that you're not going to pack up and leave, and that the league isn't, hemorrhaging money or on its last legs or anything like that. If you can prove longevity, I think that's going to go a long way to attracting fans. But the only way you can prove longevity is keep coming back year after year. And so that's not going to get fans out this year. It may not even get fans out next year. But the hope is you draw a little more from that pot of people who are just waiting to see if you're serious about this and you're going to keep coming back.
I like it. Both great answers. I mean,
yeah, and Birmingham's been burned by a lot of teams. There's been a lot of teams that come and gone then, and I'm sure a lot of the fans are saying, "Really, another?" Well, we'll wait and see what happens. Maybe.
I've heard tickets were a little more expensive than last year as well for those fans. So
that'll turn it off.
Yeah, but it wasn't much, very significant, but it was a good little uptick in general admission prices, from what I understand.
If you look at Birmingham, I mean, they're champions. I mean, it's not that, people, that brings people in when the team does well, doesn't it? So maybe Birmingham's going to be the one team from in that area that does well. I mean, I think Michael said that they're only selling one half of the stadium. Okay, well, I mean, how many seats are in the stadium there? That's a big stadium, right? So
we can look it up.
Yeah, I don't have these type of stats in my brain.
If you do, you have a lot of time.
I did, but then I drank about a 40 of rum once and it all left. So yeah, so so is there really a problem there? And the second thing is our fans in the seats, is that going to make or break this league? I mean, I think it will, because what are they making from broadcast rights? Probably not much going on into the league from that. I mean, their player wages are a little lower, but I don't think that's going to change much.
It holds 47,100.
All right. So if they can sell half of that, that's 22.
That's a good number. I mean, that's a good number for a spring football league for sure. Yeah, 20 at least.
Yeah. They'll sell half of the lower bowl. That might be more realistic. And then they'll have 14 or 15,000.
Yep. Michael Lathrop said winning cures all. The Stallions have done just that. 2024 will show if that's true for Birmingham.
Yeah, you're right, Michael. That's true. We'll see.
Yep, and then Mike called you Michael. Lord have mercy. Mike said 47,000 as well.
Yeah.
KJ Disciple said, I think they need to pay for a month of billboard ad time and at least one critical location in 7 of the 8 cities. That'd be cool.
I think the USFL did a little of that in, I don't know if it was 22 or 23. They bought some billboards in these cities. I don't know how effective it was because the attendance still wasn't great in a lot of those cities. But when you're asking the question, what can you do to better advertise this league, I don't think there's a wrong answer.
Yeah,
any media that you can get out there doing, whether it's billboards, whether it's signage anywhere, whether it's radio ads, whether it's TV ads, you need to flood the market. And I don't know if it's just the league hasn't budgeted for that this year. They're not willing to spend the money on it, or what the case is. But you just got to get out there and let people know, because I think there's probably a pretty significant chunk of fans who, even with the blitz of television ads on Fox and ABC, ESPN, who don't know about the UFL or don't know what it is, don't know that it's a merged league with the XFL and USFL. So, getting the word out there as quickly as possible, especially with the short run time that they had. I think it was right after New Year's when they officially announced that it was going to be the UFL. And so that gives you less than 3 months to really get things in gear and get advertising out there. So, I don't know. They just need to get they just need to get out there and get stuff out there, especially in these cities. Nationally is one thing, but to get people in these cities to notice so that you can pack the stadiums as best you can so that it comes across well on TV. That was one of the biggest complaints I heard about fans who watched the USFL product versus the XFL product. Is it was hard to watch a full stadium that was empty. A big stadium that was empty, basically, as some of the USFL games were. And you don't want that this year, especially, USFL had the excuse, well, we've got 2 teams who are out of market playing in this. That's, and they didn't really focus on the attendance aspect of it as much. But now that you have these prime markets here for the UFL, these are the teams that survived. You really need to put your best foot forward in terms of putting fans in these stadiums.
Agreed. And while we're on it, let's just talk about it. So Michigan Panthers, that's supposed to say single game tickets. Let me change that real quick. Single game tickets are still not available. So our season tickets are available, but not our single game tickets. Now, from most of what I'm hearing is a lot of feedback from fans from other teams that are trying to get tickets in the different cities so they can watch their team play.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the complaints I've seen personally have come from like the Facebook groups and the Battlehawks in general. A lot of the Battlehawk fans are trying to go to Michigan for that game. I think it's the first game of the season, correct? I believe it is.
Yeah. I have to check.
The interesting part about Michigan is they open up with 3 home games.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if any other team's doing that. But with not having single game tickets available already, I mean, it's not looking too good in my opinion there. And hopefully it'll step up as we go. But what are we? I mean, we're 3 weeks away right now, right? Going on between 3 and 4.
And that's a big stadium, too. It's going to be really noticeable. You can get away with that in D.C. maybe, or you can get away with that in some of these smaller stadiums. In Vegas last year, I mean, this was a very similar situation to what happened with Vegas, where they didn't start selling tickets until the last minute. And, at least you could say, well, it's not as big of a deal because it's a small stadium, and if you don't draw very well, it's not going to be as noticeable. Well, Ford Field is going to be cavernous without fans in attendance, and it's going to be very obvious. It's going to be very hard to hide that. So that is concerning. I'm not sure who's to blame here. There's just not a lot of information out there. I know there was some scuttlebutt on social media that they were changing over. They had to run through the Detroit Lions
Same thing I saw.
ticketing, and they're changing it over to something else, and there might be issues with that. So that may not be the league's fault necessarily, although you wish that this would have been cleared up well ahead of time, and you wonder if they can sell season tickets, how come they can't sell single game tickets? So that, again, seems to be the sort of the behind the scenes type of stuff that we don't really know about. I don't know the mechanics of selling tickets online, so my knowledge in this area is very limited, but that doesn't make it any less of a concern, or it shouldn't, for the league. I'm not sure that there's a good answer to what to do here. It's just, you may have to just suck it up for these first few weeks in Michigan and hope you get a great walk-up number of people coming to the game on that weekend.
It sounds like a good story. I hope it works out that way, honestly.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, Greg, as you pointed out, we don't know what could be the holdup. What, of course, you pointed out that the long rumor you heard about the ticketing. I guess that would explain it. But if that's what it is, oh my Lord, fix that problem, Brandon.
I saw March 13th, I believe, is the date I saw. And I couldn't find the actual social media stuff to put on screen tonight. I looked and looked, but I know I saw where an individual from St. Louis emailed Michigan and asked them, "Hey, why aren't these for sale? When are they going
March
for sale?"
13th.
Yep, gave them the March 13th, and they also gave them a TBD. They're moving something on one system to another. So I don't know the validity of that, but I'll tell you that like it seems legitimate. I just couldn't find it online. I know people were posting the email, and like I said, specifically in the St. Louis groups is where I saw that. And so
what are, maybe it's one of those deals like the college, like some colleges do. They won't sell to the opposition's team fans. Oh, you're a Battlehawks fan? Oh yeah. That's not
they'll have no choice at this point. If they want to get people in the stadium, they better sell. They better sell directly to the Battlehawks fans.
They better sell it to every fan, right?
Yes.
Well, if you looked, I looked back when tickets dropped, and you still couldn't get the season tickets. Then everything went through the Lions system. Everything, when you went to Ticketmaster, you were looking at the tickets for the Panthers, but you were in the Lions Ticketmaster system. So maybe that's what
Greg was saying. So there's a special. Do you think there's a special contract for that stadium because whatever
agreement
the stadium has, the Lions are part of it.
So we'll see what happens. But if anybody in the comments has that, drop it and see if I can pull it up. But I know I've seen it from at least 2 different parties, the email contact. So it is legit. I just don't know how true it is in terms of the details either.
It'd be so cool if they could fill up that stadium or even half fill it and do what St. Louis does with their stadium and their fans, and they fill it, that whole fill it to the top thing. I bet you St. Louis sets even more records this season.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. That first game's going to be huge there, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
So any other words on this topic before we move on? I mean, we know the importance of this for attendance. It's true and through, and it reminds me a lot of the Vegas situation last year where, we waited till the last minute. And we saw the result of that. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, Vegas did decent in sales compared to what it could have been like. And that's
Vegas had bad luck. The weather was bad for them.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do in Vegas too, How many people are going there to see football? Probably not many. They got other plans.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we'll move forward. So let's talk about training camp a little bit. We're almost 2 weeks in, correct? So things have kind of got a little choppy. We saw some additions, some people added to IR, some people just signed up off the street. Seems like it's getting pretty good that way. I want to note first, let's just talk about some of the progress that you guys have seen in the past 2 weeks and what you think so far in the information you do have. So, Mark, you take it from there.
Oh, you're going to let me go first? Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're always first.
Oh, really? Well, I'll get my words in before Greg tells you the real story because how is training camp going? I think the numbers wise, good on the UFL for reporting the transactions quite expediently. Like they're not taking as many days after a transaction. In other words, in the past with the XFL, we saw rumors of this transaction or this player being signed, and then about 4 days later, the XFL said, "Yeah, we signed that person." They seem to be on top of things right now. They're putting out regular transactions. You notice it comes out every evening at around 6 or 6:30 p.m. Central, maybe 6, and then so they're on top of it. There's been some interesting transactions. There's been, I think Greg will talk about the fact they have an injured reserve list, but we're not sure what that is. But and the fact that they're still signing players. And I guess the next big thing to look for is a big cut down. So there's a big cut down happening soon. And that will be an interesting time. And I think there'll be a lot of players moving around at that point in time. What do you think, Greg?
The cut down is the 10th, which is Sunday. Teams need to get down from 75 that they're carrying on training camp rosters right now to 58. So they're going to have to cut 17 players, which is a lot. And then I believe they carry 50 on the regular season roster, 50 or 51. And then so they'll cut 7 or 8 as final cuts before the regular season. And, there's always movement around this time. You'll see players who are cut in that first cut maybe get signed or claimed by another team to get a look at them for another week before they have to make the final cuts and things like that. So, good on the UFL for reporting transactions every day. I don't think it was until after the season started that we got a transactions page on XFL.com last year. So as someone who, the transaction page is my Bible. It really stung me last year to not know what was going on and not have any official word from the league and have to, follow third parties on Instagram or Twitter to figure out who was getting cut and who was making the team and things like that. And I feel silly complimenting the league for such a simple thing, which should be a no-brainer. But because we've had trouble in this area before, I do feel like I kind of have to pat them on the head a little bit and say what a good job they've done for something that's elementary. The injured reserve, we saw the first player go on injured reserve was a pretty big name, Garrett McGinn for the Renegades, potential starting offensive tackle for them, was the first player put on injured reserve. And going through the UFLPA tweet for my column that went out last night, the minimum is 5 games when a player is placed on injured reserve. So that tells you that McGinn is going to miss at least the first 5 games. We don't know. I know he posted on Instagram that he had successful surgery. So that could mean a season ender, could not. So if it is season ending injured reserve, another one of those notes on the UFLPA tweet was that any player who ends the season on injured reserve or was placed on season-ending injured reserve gets an automatic camp invite next year. So I guess that is the sort of make good for the league for a player who got hurt and didn't get an opportunity to play the full season this year, is that they get a camp invite next year. So that's a nice touch. And there's just going to be a lot of player movement over the next few weeks and days. And training camp as a whole, Matthew, I thought, and I've said this before, I've written this on UFL board, the social media folks have been doing a fantastic job keeping up to date on what's going on. The highlights have been fantastic. The videos and pictures. Look, I never had an Instagram. I signed up for Instagram and followed every UFL team, and that's the only people I follow. I'm not gonna post, so don't even follow me because there's gonna be nothing. But I signed up because of the work that they were doing on Instagram, and because really that's the only place you can go to get any kind of updates about what's going on in training camp. There's again very little coverage written in terms of written coverage from the league, from any kind of mainstream media source about what's going on. So as fans, our lifeline to training camp is Instagram and Twitter and these updates that the social media teams are putting together. And it's not just, here's a picture. I mean, they're doing awesome videos. Like,
yep,
I'm not a technologically savvy person necessarily. So I'm super impressed with what they're putting together and what they're cutting up for these videos and things like that. So maybe I'm just easily impressed. I don't know, but I do want to, I know that we can get a little negative with what's going on sometimes, but I do want to, and that's perfect, by the way. Go back to that one. The Memphis Showboats.
Gotcha.
I know this is a whole other topic, but I know there's been talk about redesigning the UFL uniforms because they're being outfitted by Under Armour this year, and that's going to be a new supplier for the former USFL teams. Of course, XFL had Under Armour last year, but this was posted earlier tonight by the Memphis Showboats Instagram page, so it's certainly a teaser. I would say
mysterious.
Yes. I would say maybe tomorrow we get the uniform reveals for the UFL teams, and maybe some tweaks here and there. I wouldn't expect any kind of overhaul, but maybe some tweaks, especially on the USFL side for these teams.
So with the uniforms, from what I guess Mike Mitchell said, we should be hearing something this week or next. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, by the fact that it's being teased there, I would say maybe as early as tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised.
That's awesome. Just keep it going, man. That makes me excited, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to run through a little bit of the content. I mean, you've got things from player interviews to videos of highlights to people training. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now with UFL content creation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, I mean the official teams of that as well as the unofficial teams. We've got a lot of content hitting the shelves right now. I know at least on Twitter, Facebook, I'm seeing a ton of different great stuff from whether it's UFL related media or if it's just people on their own. So, I mean, keep up the great work, guys. It's really awesome. And me as a podcaster or whatever, I feel like a lot of what's going on is being covered where, you know, I can really stick to the niche that I want to do now. We don't have to there's plenty of information sources for certain subjects, if that makes sense. Yeah, I was just trying to show off some more of their stuff.
I like that one. The
Hello, operator.
Yeah, he's holding the footballs like telephones, trying to order season tickets.
So how much engagement does that have?
You know, I can't see that on my end. I
can't see anything because I'm blind.
Yeah, it won't. Let me see if it tells you. I'm not as good on Instagram.
Oh, it's because those are reels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look on Facebook, I mean, it's the same kind of deals. You can click it. I mean, they just got the same content, or it's just a little bit different.
So what's the truth about these social media platforms? Facebook is an older crowd. Instagram's a younger crowd. Is that the truth, or is that just a misnomer?
You know, it's all just I can't really explain it either. You see the different people that follow you and interact with you on each platform.
Mm-hmm.
I can't personally. I don't think one's better than the other. For me, the Twitter crowd seems to be more of the folks that really want to have a conversation. They really want to be involved in talking discussions, whereas the Facebook crowd, they really just want to see things. They want to interact, but they want it to be more of a raw type of feel instead of the informal or the formal Twitter crowd. So I don't know though, man.
I do think Instagram and TikTok tend to trend younger.
Agreed.
Facebook is for a little bit of an older crowd. I teach middle school and it's all about Instagram and TikTok. You never hear anyone say they're going on Facebook or anything like that.
Yep,
so
it's dead for that crowd for sure.
It is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think your podcast, Matthew, I think it does best on Facebook, doesn't it?
You know, in recent times, yes, but recently things have been kind of switching around. Twitter actually picks up a lot of followers these days compared to what it used to.
Interesting.
But there's, like I told you, man, there's a lot of different shows going on right now. Whereas, 6 months ago, I was the only one churning out most of the content.
Yeah.
Now you can find team specific shows, league specific shows. You can find anything you want. So, that's kind of part of the Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
You have a big audience on there that I can share to in the groups, but from talking about what I've done and kind of, bragging on it a few situations and times, you see a lot of different people doing the same strategies that I do as well now. So it's not as, original, in my opinion.
Yeah. The tact is not original, but you're original, Matthew.
I appreciate that, man. I really try to be authentic as I can be. This is my personality off air as well. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So in terms of pickups and drops, and Greg, I'll leave this to you because I feel like you've got a little more special understanding of this. We should be looking at some more off the street pickups as we go, correct?
Yeah, I would anticipate that. Anytime there's an injury, someone gets placed on IR, look, you got to replace him with somebody. So you're going to see players get signed who hadn't been in camps. Even last year in the XFL, I think about guys like DJ Swearinger and Monte Nicholson, who are NFL veterans, have a lot of NFL experience, were picked up by the Defenders in the middle of the season. So even once the season begins, you're going to see players come in. And, there are players, I think of Ben Kurt last year, who wasn't really against playing in the league necessarily, but was against going to Arlington for a month and spending time. And when you guys got guys with families and things like that, that's a tough ask to come and live out of a hotel for a month or more of training camp. And then, into the season as well. So I think you're going to see potentially some upper tier players who may not have wanted to go through the training camp grind, especially guys coming off the NFL season who are already in shape. They've already, even those who were on practice squads, they're already in shape. They don't need to go through the UFL training camp grind. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those guys latch on once the season starts to some of these teams.
Understood. In terms of the IR situation, what does that exactly mean for the UFL? I know you discussed how many games a player would be out and the benefits of the following season, but I mean, are they still paid on the inactive pay scale on that IR, or are they just pulled?
I believe so. I'd have to go back and look at the tweet, but I believe they are paid the inactive salary while they're on IR.
Gotcha. That's not a bad deal then. I mean, the inactive was what, half of what the active made? I can't remember the specific amounts. Maybe, do you remember that, Greg? Because I have no idea.
I'll plug my column, UFLboard.com. It has a link to the tweet that we're all referencing. So instead of us...
Is it in your article?
It is. I embedded the tweet is embedded in the article. So
all right,
I got look at my article.
I got the article pulled up.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's more than one slide in that tweet. There's more than one slide.
Yeah, give me some hits on my article. Go to the site, and so it looks good to Mark.
You got to click on one of those, and you get there's 4 slides.
So yeah, all the information is there. That's kind of what I use as the basis for picking out some of those and adding a few discussion points to it in my column. So yeah, you'd have to click on it, and but it's all there.
Understood. So you heard them, guys, and I'll include the link to this in the show notes as well as. I guess I can pop it down here real quick.
That UFLPA tweet, that came out in the middle of January, but as Greg pointed out in his article, it kind of snuck by. It just kind of...
I remember this, but they had a little controversy, if you remember. They were kind of battling back and forth, and I think a lot of us didn't want to touch it because we didn't have a full understanding of the actual,
Yeah, and that was I remember it coming out and thinking, I probably should write an article on it, but I think that was literally the same day as the third phase of the player allocation draft.
Yeah.
So it kind of got lost in all the dispersal draft stuff and all the player movement, and that was my priority, was covering that for UFLboard.com. And then, by the time you get around to thinking about this again, it's a couple weeks later and it feels like old news. But, a lot of the points here in this tweet have to do with training camp and regular season rosters and training camp pay and stuff like that. So it's come back around to being relevant again because we are in that training camp period. So that's kind of why I brought it back a little bit and wanted to focus on a couple of the parts of it.
So while we're on this, we were going to discuss this negotiated contract anyway. Is there anything you want to share in this while we got it pulled up and rolling?
Not really. Again, check out my article because anything that I wanted to pull out, I probably wrote in there. But so I'll throw it to Mark and see if there's anything that he found particularly interesting about this.
Oh, not really. Actually, I enjoyed your article. I said, well, Greg pointed out a bunch of things I missed here, but I think the fact that there's nobody talking about any of this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's funny because and also I wonder, there's nothing in there about what quarterbacks are making, about and whether quarterbacks are actually making an extra stipend or extra money.
Well, according to Moose Johnston, they're not.
Yeah, but I don't believe him. But he's pretty adamant on that. I understand that. So I'm wondering, but also I'm wondering if he got countermanded, because he said that one day, and that was back when McCarron was saying no, and then McCarron showed up and Tamu showed up. And well,
the interesting thing, and we're talking about what Moose Johnston said there was an ESPN article about the UFL, and Johnston was quoted as saying that the quarterbacks were making as much as all the other players. The key part though was there was a right before his quote, it said, as of a month ago, quarterbacks were saying, so it was like a month ago we didn't have McCarron, we didn't have Teamu, we didn't have Luis Perez. So you kind of think some things could change in that month in terms of the pay.
That cryptic talk always gets me every time.
I'm thinking something changed, and of course he's not going to say, "Oh, I was wrong," or I got outvoted. He's not going to say that, so I don't blame him. But or maybe it's not in the contract. Maybe there's a signing bonus. Maybe that's part of it. They were able to give McCarron a signing bonus and say, okay.
Yeah, there's a way that you can say, oh, his salary technically is the same as everybody else. But as you said, there are ways to kind of sweeten the pot a little bit for some of these players.
I know from talking with Matty Fresh, I mean, that I'm 100% convinced there's some kind of extra buy-in for these QBs, because AJ would not have joined in without getting what he was worth. And in my opinion, that meant money. It may have been a conversation, shaking hands and respect, but it probably meant he needed to make a little more, considering what he made on that practice squad before he left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that'll ever come out. It might, and kudos to Matty Fresh for getting that interview with him. That was pretty awesome work there.
Oh, agreed. Super. It's super informal, but really gets to a lot of good points. And whatever your side is, it really breaks it down so you can understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Fight for what you're worth, or don't do it is my thing about it. All right, moving on. So we talked about most of the things on the list, guys. I wanted to note again the content creation team for the UFL. They've done a great job. There's a lot of different content on each platform to watch, catch up with it. If you're watching it at home, follow them on any social media source, and you should have some good entertainment. Twitter's not as action-packed, but everything else has got a lot going. Guys, I guess we'll open it up to questions, because that was all we had on the list to talk about. So if you have any questions at home, please throw them in the comments, guys, and I'll see them. So here's one.
It's a good point, Matthew. Like and share everything you see on social media if you want to support the league and support all the teams.
Yeah, it takes zero effort, and you just hit a button. So why not? And that's how I started doing all this stuff, and I love it. I mean, bringing information to people is a great feeling. I don't want to be the information source, just spreading the love, I'm not the one that's going to tell someone how to think or what to think. I'll give you this, and you can tell me what your opinion is. It's cool with me. So XFLMikeG said, and this one's to Greg, do your students know about what you do or the UFL?
No. And I'm always thinking eventually one of these days they're just going to Google me, because sometimes they do that. They get curious, they get bored, and all this stuff will come up. My work for the Torch that I do, Pro Wrestling Torch, and I've been writing for that publication for 15 years, and I got my stuff for the UFL board, and so someday they'll stumble upon it. And but no, they haven't. I don't talk about that, and they don't. They don't ask, so it's a it's a good relationship there.
That would make me want to change my name, probably.
Yeah, I mean, if they find out, they find out, and whatever. It's not like I'm doing anything untoward or anything like that. I'm just writing, and I have a degree in journalism, so I feel like by writing about wrestling and by writing about the UFL, I'm at least getting something out of my money that I spent to go to college to get my journalism degree, since I'm not really using it outside of that professionally. So it makes me feel a little better about it anyway.
You'll be signing up to teach the sports journalism class here soon.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I'd love that.
Sounds awesome, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Sounds sweet. Couldn't beat that. Rick 8-Bit said, any ideas how tickets for week 1 are looking?
Well,
no idea.
Not looking good at Ford Field. That's one game. That's
really going out on a limb there on that one.
Just throw that out there.
I mean, if you wanted to, I presume you could go into Ticketmaster and look at the seat maps for these. With the caveat, of course, that you don't really know what seats. I mean, Mike Lathrop pointed out that Birmingham's only selling one side, and if you didn't know that, you'd look at the stadium and you wouldn't realize that some of it's off limits. So it's when you look at the map, you have to understand that not every section is open. So you could go in there and take a look at each game and each home game and see how they're doing. That makes me a little nervous to do because I'm afraid I'm not going to like what I see. So I tried to stay away and not do that. But I mean, if you really were interested, you could go in to Ticketmaster and just take a look at the seat maps and see how they're doing. Here we go.
Well, there's a home game in Houston that week, and there's a home game in Arlington. Now, I think Houston is going to be playing at a different stadium. Of course, that is true.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see how they do with their ticket sales, because you know what? Their last in 2023 was a disappointment. They did much better in 2020. So
this is Houston that we're looking at right now?
This is Houston on March 31st.
Well, I don't know. I see a lot of blue dots, but they're selling both sides of the stadium.
That's no end zone seats.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it makes me want to look at some more now. But
well,
like you said, this is like opening up.
Rice Stadium is what, about 25,000?
Somebody comment in, please. Let us know, so I don't have to Google it.
So that looks like what, about 10,000 seats sold, maybe?
I don't know. That's being generous, I think.
Well, I don't know. I guess, can you count the little dots?
I'll be back tomorrow with an answer.
This is. Let me tell you, this is going to be fascinating podcasting here. If we're going to sit here and count the dots on the show, man, that's compelling stuff.
114 people just watching us count blue.
So look at it. That's all lower bowl. That's high density seats. So it's all lower bowl. That would be 25% of that stadium is sold. Maybe 20%, including the upper stuff.
I like it. I mean, it's better than what I thought it was going to be, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, but why can't they get more fans in Houston? I mean, they did better in 2020. So what's going on? What's the difference?
From my perspective and being in Houston last year during the season, there was a lot going on, man. Houston has a lot of different activities, a lot of things happening, sports, rodeos, high school stuff. I mean, so last year I personally felt like scheduling just wasn't ideal for certain things. You know, we shouldn't have a game when there's a big rodeo going on down the street. That's just
that's the kind of the positive and negative of being in a big city. Obviously the positive is you have a larger fan base to draw from, but the negative is there's also at any time so much going on in that city. And that's what I know you mentioned that about Vegas earlier. Is you go to Vegas and there's just so much to choose from. What's going to make you decide to take an evening to go watch XFL football in Vegas? And same thing in Houston. You know, there's so much going on, so much to choose from. What is going to make you decide to spend your day in a stadium outdoors in potentially hot weather, going to a UFL game? You know, it's incumbent upon the league to give you a reason. And I'm not sure that the league has given people enough of a reason to come to these games yet.
Okay, so Rice Stadium is 70,000 seats. I didn't know it was that big.
Wow, I guess so.
But I'm you know, I guess I'm a dummy, but that's a 70,000 seat stadium if you can believe Wikipedia.
Well, when you scale it down and it looks like they're not selling the seats on the upper bowl. It looks like they're not selling the seats in the end zone. So when you scale it down, I wonder how much the capacity for a UFL game then would be.
Yeah, maybe 20.
I don't even think we didn't even hit 20 last year in any single games, if I remember.
No, it was like 12,000, 14,000.
So this is Arlington and Birmingham week 1. That actually doesn't look too bad if we know what they're selling and what they're not, I guess.
Well, and there's still a few weeks to go.
That's not too bad. I mean, honestly, and these seats back here are not fun. I've been here.
That must be the cheap seats in the back there on the top.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't look as bad.
No, that's not as bad, is it?
That's the returning champs in both, though. So you would think if anybody's going to sell week 1, it's got to be there, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how far Birmingham is from Arlington, but it's
a good distance.
Is it a good distance? Okay, so you're probably not going to get a lot of necessary. Well, you might not get a lot of travel coming then in from Birmingham.
Yeah, it's not a long drive, but it's not a short drive either. I'm not sure, honestly, at the top of my head, but it can't be too close because I'm 4 hours from Birmingham, and then I'm probably 9.5 hours from Arlington down here on the coast of Mississippi. So,
okay.
But yeah, that doesn't look too bad. So guys at home, if you really want to gauge an idea of ticket sales, this is how you do it. And this is how I've been doing it since last year. And I really try to wait till closer, though, to get a better understanding, because this can change very, very, very quickly.
And if there's anything else you want to take away from this, good seats still available. If anyone out there listening is considering going to a UFL game, we just showed you. I mean, you got your pick, basically.
Yes, sir. Plenty of seats to go around there in Arlington. Plenty. Let's see if we got any more questions, guys. If not, we're going to let it roll. All right. That's all I got on my end. Any more questions before we roll off the air? Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay. So, guys, I appreciate you attending tonight. It's been a good conversation. I'm trying not to keep everyone that comes on for 2 hours. So,
thank you.
I'm glad that we're getting out of here a little early. I look forward to your next appearance and all your work, Greg and Mark, both. I appreciate it. People at home, if you're listening, Mark is the creator of UFL Board, which used to be XFL Board, okay? Greg Parks is one of his main writers for UFLboard.com. So check both of these guys out. Solid sources for information. UFL Board's one of my favorites, if not my only favorite, honestly. So appreciate you guys doing what you do. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Matthew. It's always a pleasure.
Always. Appreciate it greatly, guys. And Mark, like I always say, thank you to you, man. I mean, a lot of this started last year just contacting you, setting up a phone call, and we kind of went from there. So thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. That's true. I got a phone call from this guy I never heard of before, and I'm thinking, wow, he's from Biloxi, and he's not trying to sell me insurance? Oh, wow, this is great.
You don't want any Mississippi insurance. That doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys greatly. Anything you want to plug or say before you hop off, please do.
You know what? Go, follow the UFL, follow their social media, follow everything, like everything. Don't hate anything, and support this league. If I mean, it's the least we can do. If we want this league to work, support it, and look for the biggest deal this season is going to be the rivalry between the USFL and the XFL. Watch for that rivalry. Enjoy it. I know I will. I'm just going to enjoy it. I think it's cute.
Mark's being modest. I'm going to plug all of our stuff. UFLboard.com, UFL Board, the UFL Board on Twitter, at Greg M. Parks on Twitter. I tweet sometimes stuff that I don't write in my column, so you get little nuggets of information. I have an idea of something I'm going to tweet after this tonight, so I'm going to do some research, going to tweet it out. And then, of course, I do 2 to 3 columns a week for UFL Board, really digging into roster construction, player personnel, that sort of thing, and other stuff. I had a column recently on Matt Corral, who's coming to play for the Birmingham Stallions. I had the opportunity to ask Skip Holtz about it on a conference call, and gave me enough for an article about that. So I write about anything and everything UFL related, UFLboard.com.
Sweet plug. You should make a commercial. That was really good.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's better
if we
off.
had a commercial, it would be great.
it's better off the cuff, just thinking of it in the moment. I mean, that's when you really get it going.
Yeah. That's great.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you again. Look forward to the next one. Seriously.
Thank you, Matthew.
Take care. All right. About to close it up. Appreciate those guests and their time. Good show tonight. Nice, short and sweet. Can't ask for much more, honestly. Appreciate you watching. If you watched the episode, follow us on all social media. Facebook and Twitter is our most active platforms for sure. A little bit on Instagram, but not really. I try my best. We've been counting down the season with the picture from last year. So pictures and videos are both added on Instagram just from last year, different places. Mostly Houston, though, considering that's where I was for a majority of my time. Thanks again for watching, tuning in. It's appreciated, and the support is by far needed. So thank you so much. Check back in the 9th, which is Saturday. I'll have Bryce Messina. He'll be on. He's a player that signed to Finland, I believe. I'll have to look it up again for sure. But he super good quarterback, signed to go play out of the country. And so we'll talk to him more, get to know him. There's not too much about him out there right now, so it'll be really good to talk to him, sit down, and kind of figure out who he is and where he came from. He's got a pretty interesting story. So check that out at 7:30 p.m. Central, Saturday, March 9th. Coming back in, the next episode of the UFL Insiders is going to be on March 19th. That one, I'm not going to say the guest yet, though. So just wait. I'll announce it on social media a couple days before. I'll say it's nothing crazy and exciting, but I just want to wait and kind of build some anticipation. The guest has been on before, and he's a great guest, so I look forward to hearing him and seeing what he's thinking so far regarding the new season of UFL. That's it for me. I'm out of here. Thanks, UFL, for letting me cover the league. It's greatly appreciated. AFN has tried to be in as many of these media calls and events and media press releases as possible. And it's a lot of work, but so far it's gone great. So thank you, UFL, for letting us get that access. And thank you, UFL Board, for partnering up and doing the great things we've done. It's been a great year, and I'm glad that we made that relationship early on. Check out alternativefootballnetwork.com. That's where everything's at. That's really what I've tried to hone in on the past couple months. We have multiple podcasts that we've partnered up with, as well as news organization, UFL Board. And we have some writers of our own doing some custom pieces, hobby writing that, they really enjoy it. So we post it and give them a platform. I'm thinking that's it. Guys at home, if there's anything I'm missing, comment in. It's a lot of announcements. Thank you again for watching. Appreciate it. Guys, support the league. Support some of these content creators. There's a lot of people coming out with content, and some may be your cup of tea more than others, and that's fine. Share it, support it, become a fan, engage, interact, and this is how we're going to make this thing a success. If we constantly go about battling each other and trying to do things better with one another, I mean, we'll have some good stuff come out of it, but we need some collaboration. And you as the fans, I mean, it starts with you guys, and we're just going to do what you want in terms of this show. So appreciate you again. Take it easy till next time. Follow all UFL on social medias. That's where you're going to see a lot of good stuff. It's where most of the info is that we have found and that we have talked about. I'll say another good source is Mike Mitchell. He's been coming out with some great articles kind of beforehand, before the actual information drops. So most of the time, I will say, if you see a piece of info drop, check Mike Mitchell's Twitter, check the Sports Illustrated UFL site, because he's probably discussed it on there. So check that out. So appreciate you too, Mike. Thank you for your information. Woo, that's a mouthful. That's it for me, guys. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. I had to do it. I'm out of here. Be good. Till next time.
Go hard, go home, go hard, go hard, go home, go hard, go home, go hard, go home. Touchdown like an end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't